inside. So essentially we adapted a little bit to becoming a board game in terms of presentation.
But as a board game, it doesn't look like a board game,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't. There is no board.
There is no board, but in the end, it's something it, it's sometimes it's tricky to give a very strict categorization because I still wouldn't rate it as a miniature game because it lacks certain things that you take for granted in miniature games.
Right.
For example, there are no army lists, there are no point values,
Right.
there are things. So essentially it's much more board game oriented in terms of the style of play that we expect from you. More casual, a little bit more relaxed. You still don't have a fixed board, but I don't think that's the most important characterization. Then the miniatures, of course, came out as a development of that concept, and initially as an accessory. So we want to say as an option, but in the end they were so much more successful than the game in the paper version was that somehow they are taking over. And so people now recognize the game mostly for the miniature version maybe than the paper version.
Because once you play the miniatures, it's very difficult
To go back.
to the paper airplanes.
Yes.
How did you, Andrea is the creator of the game,
Yes.
and the other creator,
Giorgio Paglia.
right? Did you already know them when the game? Did they come to you? Did
Yes.
you find them?
No, I've been working with Andrea and Giorgio for a very long time because some of the very first games that we developed for the Italian market were done together with Andrea. For example, Andrea was the creator of a series of licensed Dragon Ball games that we published for the Italian market only. I think was as early as 1997, 1998. And even before that, we were publishing a games magazine in Italy, and Andrea was a contributor to the magazine. So I've been working with Andrea, and Giorgio has been a design partner of Andrea for many projects. So it's sort of a duo like Marco Maggi and Francesco Repitello, which is used to work together a lot. So in the end, I've been working with them for like 15 years
Really?
now. So Wings of War essentially was our first game project. So Andrea and Giorgio, when they proposed it to me, at the time we were not really an international company yet. It was actually the game which introduced us to the worldwide market. I always also agree that I think one of the strong points with this game, and I think that is increasingly a necessity for our market because there have been a generation shift. Board games were very popular in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, then faded down, but there was a big audience which was generated at the time, people like us which are now in their 40s and their 50s, and now they have sons which are 8 years, 10 years, 12 years old. So those games which touch the heart of both the parent but can also touch the heart of the kids, and so the parents and kids can, I think those games can bring a new generation of gamers into the industry, and I think that's a very important asset when a game like this brings out. I cannot say that this was deliberate with Wings of War, definitely it was more like by chance, but definitely I see that this is happening. So people which like to play Blue Max or Race of Aces or Luftwaffe in the 70s, they found something which they could still appreciate, but they could also appreciate with their wives, with their kids, with their non-gaming friends. So I think that's has been one very big, because you need to have a core audience, somebody that becomes your employee, like you, an ambassador, and which most often is something was being played for a long time. But if the game is too tough or not too complex or too dark sometimes, then it's difficult to involve normal people, not
like
gamers like us into it. I think those games will come out a good asset to everybody, for us gamers, so that we can get more people to play
Right.
for the industry.
Excellent point, because back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, those games were very, I pull them out, I look at them. They're boring.
Now,
Today, they're
yes.
very boring because there's so many rules and the hexes. And the games that you've begun to produce are much more group-oriented and much more focused. So tell me about, so there has been a shift. Maybe it started 10 years ago with the German market developing the Euro games, the new generation of Settlers of Catan, Carcassonne, these type of games. But I'm hearing rumors that there's another renaissance coming. And that renaissance in gaming is coming out of Italy.
I don't know. Definitely, the Italian scene has been very active in the latest year, particularly because if you compare with what the Italian market is, so there was a lot of creativity, which I think what was a liability became somehow of an asset.